Always trust.
We ask the question, what is needed in the world?
Is that going to
Ovo je Al Jazeera lijep pozdrav. Gost Al Jazeera je generalni direktor Evropske organizacije za nuklearna istraživanja, poznatije pod skraćenim nazivom CERN.
Vrhunska oprema u svim postrojenjima, oprema budućnosti prema kojoj svemirski brodovi izgledaju kao iz prošlog vijeka, ali kada uđete u kancelariju generalnog direktora, to je švajcarski skromno, minimalistički namješteno. Ovo je ured profesora Rolfa Heuera. Nekim lokalnim činovnicima na Balkanu bilo bi neobično saznati da ovdje sjedi prvi čovjek najveće svjetske laboratorije.
Mr. Heuer, thank you very much for being with us. Thank you for your time.
Welcome.
You are the General Director of European Organization for Nuclear Research. How does it feel to be a head of an organization which is home to the world's largest laboratory?
Well, I feel pride, I feel challenged, I see the opportunity, and I like the job.
What do you like the most?
I like the most to see that the laboratory flourishes because the Large Hadron Collider is working. I see so many young people here doing their research with a smile on their face and enjoying the data, enjoying the physics, but also enjoying life at the same time. So it's bustling. You have a mixture of cultures. You have a mixture of nations, mixture of experience. You can have a young person aside, a Nobel Prize winner. It's just all this mixture which makes this place so fantastic and so outstanding.
People come here from all over the world, thousands of them, and yet they all manage to settle down their differences.
Yeah, sometimes I think myself, how come? Yes, it's not such an easy answer. I think one of the answers is they realize they have one goal, namely they want to increase the knowledge, not only their own knowledge, but knowledge of mankind in general. So they have a goal to which they are working. And they leave politics out of the game, yeah? And that bridges cultures and it bridges nations. And everybody works very well together. That shows if you want, you can do it, yeah? So if there is a will, and if you take the differences which you see, yeah, and which you experience, if you take the differences not as a threat, but as an opportunity, then it's fantastic.
Do you expect that Higgs boson will be found in this year?
I have to answer slightly differently. I expect that we either find the Higgs boson or that we exclude its existence. So that I expect, yes. So either finding it, that would be a discovery, because then our so-called standard model would be complete, because all the basis of the standard model, all the ingredients would be found. If we don't find it, that means we exclude it because we know its properties. So we know how many collisions we need in order to find it. So if we don't find it, we exclude it. If we exclude it, this standard model suddenly has one leg missing. Yeah? So if you're missing one leg, this is a discovery, because this standard model has worked up to now so brilliantly over decades, and just this last missing cornerstone would be still missing. Would be a huge discovery. And then the job would be to find the replacement of this leg. And this would come in the next year, in the forthcoming years.
What does it mean to the science world has known so far?
Well, in the first case, if it exists and we find it, then of course we would have the theoretical formalism confirmed for the standard model. Okay? However, if you find something, then you have to scratch your head and you have to look, is it really that what I was looking for? So you have to investigate the properties. Yeah? If you find something and you don't see exactly what it is, you have to really look at it in very much detail. So the next few years will then be a study in detail of the properties of this particle. But in principle, the standard model would be confirmed. However, the standard model has a slight disadvantage. I'm joking a little bit here. The slight disadvantage is that it just describes 4 to 5% of the universe. 95% of the universe are unknown to us. It's dark universe, dark matter, dark energy. We know very little about dark matter. We know even less about dark energy. And then the next years would come and would see the research, what could be this dark matter? Yeah? So there's a huge amount of work in front of us for the next 10, 15, 20 years at this machine. If we exclude the Standard Model Higgs, then, as I said, we have to find the replacement. And we are sure we will find this replacement in the energy range of the Large Hadron Collider. But since we don't know exactly its properties, we don't know how long it will take. So we have to study and to find this replacement. In addition, of course, we will look again for dark matter and for other new physics.
Are there any plans to rebuild or to amend the Large Hadron Collider?
Of course, yes. You see, when you have such a big accelerator, you deliver every year so and so many collisions. At some stage, you come in a sort of saturation that it takes a long time to appreciably increase the amount of data. So then you have to deliver more collisions per second. Yeah? So what we foresee is a continuous improvement over the next 10, 15 years of the number of collisions per second. And especially we want to make a big step forward around 2022. So we have already detailed plans up to 2022, and then a plan of running after 2022 to increase the amount of data again for roughly 8, 10 years. So we have a 20 years program.
What about the speed of light? Is there a conclusion? Have scientists found something faster than light?
At the day of the interview, there's no conclusion yet. So in September 2011, the experiment in Italy, to which we sent the neutrinos, has announced that they have measured the neutrinos a little bit too fast. So they arrived a bit too early compared to the speed of light, which would be an extreme surprise. Okay. However, this was a measurement of an experiment, and they were sure about that measurement. So the normal scientific way is to open that to scrutiny by the community. That means to everybody. So there was a seminar at CERN, and people were discussing it, and afterwards there were coming suggestions, etc. And of course, the experiment has continued to check the data. They have, just 2 days ago, they have told us that they might have seen 2 effects which can have influenced the measurement. Yeah? Could explain possibly the measurement. However, before we know for sure, we need new data. So we switch on the accelerator towards the end of March, and we plan to send a dedicated beam of neutrinos again to Italy, most probably beginning of May. And after that, we can settle the question.
What are the other experiments crucial to the science?
The Large Hadron Collider, we mentioned already. Then the question of the neutrinos, the properties of the neutrinos. Because these neutrinos, they are very interesting beasts. Yeah? Suppose you would be a neutrino, and you would start here in CERN and travel the 700 kilometers to Italy, and you would arrive there. But sometimes you would decide in the middle of this travel to change your family, and you would arrive as Heuer. Okay, that could happen for these neutrinos. Yeah, they can change their family. I could start here and suddenly arrive as you. Yeah, for the neutrinos this could be possible, and this is the main task of this experiment, to study that, to understand these neutrinos better. The velocity measurement was just a side measurement, so to speak, but it gave a lot of excitement in the community.
Could it be a beginning or something yet known as teleportation?
No, not teleportation. No, this is an intrinsic property of this type of particles, and you have to measure that. So this will not give any transmutation. No, but it's a property which can help maybe also to explain other things which we don't know yet in the universe. So the neutrino. Then, of course, we are studying the difference of matter and antimatter. Yeah? Look, at the beginning of the universe, matter and antimatter were created or produced in equal quantities. And then nature introduced a very small asymmetry, 1 part in 10 billion more matter than antimatter. And this 1 part in 10 billion is us, because we are living in a matter-dominated universe. Where is the antimatter? So we are also addressing this question, again at the Large Hadron Collider, but also at dedicated experiments. So maybe these are 3 highlights of things which we are doing.
In terms of financing, is there any sort of pressure on people working on experiments?
There's another very important experiment, financing.
And how do you find money?
So you see, CERN is an international, intergovernmental organization with treaties between CERN and the respective countries, the member states. So the advantage is that through this intergovernmental status, through this treaty organization, we have a rather stable platform for the funding, which is not guaranteed, but which is given through the 20 member states which we have now. So they all contribute in relation to their GDP, and this helps also that if an economy goes down, that other countries take that part up because the GDP of that country goes down, so they have to contribute less, so the other ones contribute a bit more. This, of course, is a problem if all economies are going down. So I'm still hoping that some of the economies, especially in Europe, are still staying up, like in Germany, so that helps a lot. But at the moment, since our machines are working so well, our experiments are working so well, it looks as if there is really a strong will in the respective governments to support CERN as in the past. So for the moment, I can only cross fingers. It looks okay, but of course we always have to discuss also with the governments to guarantee the funding.
Yes, why crossing fingers? How do you cooperate with governments? Are there some special demands from them?
Oh, each government has some special demands always, but they are not, you can fulfill them. I mean, it's clear that each government would like to have also a certain return back into their respective countries. So if a return, and this return can change from year to year depending on the work we have to do. So we have for countries which have less return, for example, we have working groups where we work together actively with a country to see where can we help. Because it cannot be only done by CERN, you have to have always the other side also to help you to identify possibilities and also to identify contact persons in the countries. And that seems to work very well. It's again a slightly long-term procedure. It doesn't work from one day to the other, but it works from year to year. You can see a trend. It works.
Are there any requests by armies?
Never, no. Because first of all, they know that our convention forbids explicitly any military involvement, any involvement in military work. You have to imagine, you have to remember that CERN was founded in 1954, but the first discussion started in 1949, more or less very quickly after the World War. And it was clear that an organization like CERN should never be involved in any military research. And we are not. We are neither dependent on military nor on any industrial demands. We are not doing a special research, for example, for a special company, wherever it is cited. That we don't do. And there's nothing with the military.
What are the difficulties?
The greatest difficulty, maybe it was a...
Or challenge, perhaps?
I think challenge, maybe the biggest challenge, I think, was to really bring this Large Hadron Collider to work. Because such a collider is its own prototype. Yeah? You have only one of this in the world, and you build only one of this in the world. So this, I think, was the biggest challenge. And then to have these huge experiments at this collider, to get them all the scientists to get them all together and to install them and to have everything ready on time and functioning, I think that was one of the biggest challenges.
Yet, what was the biggest difficulty?
I think I couldn't say which was really the biggest one, but some types of difficulties you can imagine is, for example, once you switch on the Large Hadron Collider and you have a breaking connector which destroys or demolishes part of the machine and it takes a year to repair it. That was certainly a very difficult moment in the life of the organization, to explain why it happened, to explain what happened, and to get understanding in general that such things can happen because you have a new machine. Another difficulty was in the past, for example, when you suddenly see that you need, in order to fulfill a certain task, you need more money than you have. And then you have to go back to your funding agencies and explain and see how really to get all the resources you need in order to fulfill the tasks you have. Yeah? So in the life of the Large Hadron Collider, we went through some of these difficulties. CERN went through some of these difficulties because the whole machine was constructed within the budget. Yeah? So there was no extra money, no extra budget. So one had to shuffle around money here and there, and for this you need, of course, the permission from your funding agencies. So these are typical difficulties which from time to time appear.
Were there any times of great emotions?
Oh, of course. I mean, I think in retrospect, the emotions, the happiness maybe is more, because otherwise I would not do that job. There are a lot of emotions. If you look on the photos which were taken when the machine was turned on, when the first data came in, when you see when there was an announcement from at one of the previous machines, the announcement of the discovery of new particles, which afterwards gave the Nobel Prize. I mean, these are emotions. Then you have a packed auditorium with a mixture of young and old people, all hanging on the lips of the person who presents it, and these are emotions which you keep for your life. And maybe for me, one of the emotions was when the predecessor of the Large Hadron Collider, in the same tunnel, when this machine was switched on, I was more or less living 1 week at the experiment in order to get the first data, and we got them, and it was a relief. It was full of physics-wise. The physics is not in the first data. Physics is later, but to see everything works, and you are the first one to see it, that's an emotion, and that you will not forget for your life. That's fantastic. I haven't forgotten it.
Do you get calls by theologists?
We don't get calls from theologists, but we are starting to talk to them. And that's independent of the type of religion, okay? So again, we are trying to bridge cultures. It is very important to connect to philosophy and theology. Because physics is one thing. So you have the Big Bang, and then physics is one thing. But then the question is, what was around the Big Bang? Was there anything before the Big Bang? That's not the physics. That's then the question to philosophy, the question maybe to religion. So what we will do, and I think we will manage this year, to have a first workshop, which I call it the interface of knowledge, where I want to have a round table, not too many people, a round table of physicists, theologians, and philosophers to talk about this interface of knowledge. And the first thing I want to get out is to develop a common language. Yeah? Because sometimes it's very difficult to talk to each other. No, it's not difficult to talk to each other, but it's difficult to understand each other. What do I mean when I say A and the other one understands B? Yeah? Or vice versa. So one has to develop first a common understanding of the language. And if we arrive at that in the first workshop, then we can continue, make a wider discussion on the questions at the interface of knowledge.
What would you say to them?
I would just say to them that we exactly have to develop this, and then we, for example, the physicists can start talking what they think about the development and of time and space and time, and then we see how the philosopher, for example, sees the development of the early universe in his language, and then we compare.
Do you see this question difficult or important?
Both. I find it very difficult But I find it also very important because when I give outreach talks, general public talks, I'm always asked what was before the Big Bang, for example. I'm always asked these questions, what was before, or what's the opinion about the connection between philosophy and physics, for example. And I think it's, we have to attack it and to really start thinking about it. And it's, for a physicist like me, it's very difficult to attack such questions. So I need the help of philosophers for that.
How do you cope with the media attention?
Sometimes heavy. Sometimes heavy. However, I think it's very good because it shows the media attention would not be there if the media would not be watched when they are attentive, okay? So that means the general public is interested, the media are interested. That means, and since we are financed through public money, we can show and tell the general public what we are doing. Yeah? And I find it very good that there is this huge interest. Yeah? I don't see it as a burden. It sometimes takes a lot of time, but I think it's very, very good, not only for us, for particle physics, but for basic research in general. Because one thing is missing here nowadays in the society. People don't talk very much about science. Everybody uses science. I mean, the result of science, yeah? I mean, your GPS system. Nobody not many people think each time they use a GPS system that the GPS system has relativity theory in it. Because if you don't correct for relativistic effects, you don't end up where you want to go. So we have to talk a bit more about science.
Do you feel that there is a sort of a negative promotion, negative context brought by media or some movies?
I would not exclude that, but up to now I think most of the movies have produced a good image. Just take the example Angels and Demons, what many people have looked at, I guess. And I had a very nice taxi ride in one of the European cities from the university to the airport. We were talking where to go, etc. I said, Geneva, what are you doing there? I said, okay, I'm working at CERN. CERN, I know what you are doing. Okay. I saw Angels and Demons and I got so much interested in CERN that I now watch your webpage and look what you are doing. Fantastic effect. This is exactly the effect such films should have.
How do you see the participation of scientists from the Balkans here in CERN?
Very positive. First of all, they have good scientists. They have good engineering. They have good firms. So it's a win-win situation for both sides. I mean, we get good people and the countries get back trained, internationally trained good people back into their country. And this is why now Serbia will become a member of CERN soon. The agreement has to be ratified by the parliament. Slovenia will soon join CERN. Croatia, I hope also, not too late, so we are in discussions. So we are starting with the bigger Balkan countries to join CERN, and I think this will be a very good situation for both sides, because the advantage of being member of CERN is that you can have staff positions at CERN, and these people then can, when they have been internationally trained, they can go back in their country, and the private enterprises can bid in tendering processes or can participate in R&D projects which we are doing.
What would you say about young people and their motivation? Are they motivated enough to come here and study at CERN?
I can only say yes. I can only say yes. They are motivated, extremely. I had today 2 delegations from 2 different countries, not from Balkan countries, and they both were praising the young people, the motivation of the young people. They talked to the young people. They were really very much encouraged by the young people, how they behaved, and by their motivation, by their enthusiasm. And I can see this also in the Balkan countries. There again, I don't see a big difference between cultures.
Is this a job you desire?
I never dreamt of this job. I never dreamt of it. It came somehow automatically, yeah? But I must say, when I started or when I was elected, I said, okay, this is maybe the best job in the world. Sometimes it's difficult to stick to that word, but overall I would say at the moment it's one of the best jobs in the world, at least in the scientific world.
Professor Heuer, thank you for your time. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you.
Vamo, poštovani gledalci, hvala na pažnji. Gost Al Jazeere, dakle, bio je profesor Rolf Heuer, generalni direktor Evropske organizacije za nuklearna istraživanja. Ostanite uz program Al Jazeera.
We ask the question, what is needed in the world?